Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to our live stream here with my good friend Dave Williams. My name is Earl Foote. I am founder and CEO of Nexus IT Consultants. Nexus IT is a Utah-based technology infrastructure cybercrime, not cybercrime, but cybersecurity firm. We provide outsourced cybercrime for hire, right? Kind of, slipped up there a little bit. But anyways, Nexus IT Consultants provides outsourced white glove IT support, cybersecurity, cloud, among other technology services and solutions. I'm here with my good friend Dave Williams today. Dave is somebody who I have first of all, I'm blessed to call a personal friend, somebody who is just an amazing, wonderful, humble, giving person, and who has had a very successful, decorated career, and somebody I've looked up to for a long time. And I'm elated to have him join me here today. I'm going to share with you a little bit about Dave's formal background, and that is Dave currently is founder and chairman of his venture, DKW Ventures. Dave is a serial entrepreneur and executive who has led many companies to significant success, including a 13-year stint as chairman and CEO of Fishbowl. Fishbowl is an industry-leading manufacturing and warehouse management software company. Dave also serves on the finance subcommittee for the board of trustees of Rocky Mountain University of Health Professions. He's a board member of multiple different private companies. Dave mentors, coaches, and consults leaders, and he likes to say that he helps leaders to become better leaders. When needed, Dave takes interim CEO roles. Most recently, he has assumed the role of senior advisor at Hall Labs, a significant innovation center that spans more than 131 acres in Provo, Utah, with a 60-plus year legacy in technology, materials science acceleration, and with exits of more than 650 million, and the average exit ROI of 4.5 times. If any of you have ever been to the Hall Labs campus, it's a very, very impressive place. Maybe a modern day Edison Labs right here in Utah. Dave has advised several of the Hall Labs portfolio companies to share growth expertise and to provide counsel to help them be successful as organizations. So Dave, welcome.
Thank you, Earl. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so pleased and excited to have you here with me today. And thank you for all of those who are tuning in to see this session with us. Dave and I had a conversation a couple of months ago about doing this session today, and we talked about what do we feel is, as leaders, is very important to both of us, and what can we share that we think would be within our subject matter expertise and be of significant value to the local business community, to leaders, to entrepreneurs. And so we wanted to talk a bit today about producing a team-focused type of culture. So Dave, you and I both know that this is a widely, this is a concept with significant misconception involved. So maybe we just start by talking about what corporate culture is, what it isn't, and then we can get into some more specifics. So in your opinion, in your experience, what defines corporate culture and what is it?
I think defining it is unique to the holding environment or the company. How I like to describe culture is it's the fabric that's woven by the people that are there, from employees to significant others to key stakeholders. That weaves the environment that you're you're putting out there as your company, and that you are hiring people within. So I've always thought I'm gonna bring in the right type of people that enjoy this type of fabric that I've put together, that can actually enhance it in some way or can benefit from it personally. And then with that that backdrop, Earl, it's then I'm in the business of people. It doesn't matter. You've got an incredible company in the IT business. I did a software company. I've been in many companies, but I'm in the business of people. It doesn't matter if we're digging dishes or building houses or serving in the local food bank. It's who you create and the environment that they work within that helps a person become a better person. And if a person can become a better person, they produce results, and they're happy. Happy people do good things. So that's a long answer to the question. So
No, it's a fantastic answer. So I think you're saying one of the common misconceptions that I hear is that people think that corporate culture is ping pong tables and an all-you-can-eat buffet, cafeteria that's open all day long, right?
true.
You're saying that that's not corporate culture.
No, that's just window dressing.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not discounting or discrediting that at all, and that may be important to creating a rewarding environment for your team to be part of. But culture really is that set of norms and values and behaviors and philosophies by which you behave and govern within the organization, right? It's that collective cohesiveness and momentum that you have as a team, and by all means, as a leader, as your career progresses, I think one of the best skills you can foster and obtain is to learn how to find the right people that dovetail correctly into that culture, because when you do so, that momentum and the trajectory that you have continues on its path and accelerates. Maybe, and I want to come back around. You touched on this concept of providing an environment that is fulfilling for your team members and provides opportunities for growth as individuals and professionals within your organization. I want to touch more on that, but before, maybe from your experience, why has culture been important in your ventures, Dave, and what has it done for you and your organizations?
Well, culture, again, Earl, in my mind, the quick definition is, does it help a person to become a better person when they come to my place? And if they can become a better person, doesn't matter in what way, maybe they need to be a little more courageous. Maybe they need to be a little more innovative. Maybe they need to learn how to lead. Maybe they need to learn how to follow. Maybe they need to learn how to listen better. So you provide an environment that allows a person to become a better person if they're willing to become a better person. And the culture becomes vibrant. It becomes alive. It becomes real. I remember so many people would walk into my company and say, what is it that's different here? They would say that within 10, 15, 30 seconds. They would hear laughter down the hall. Oh, do you allow laughing? Yeah. But it's something that you can feel when you walk into an environment. You can feel bad vibes and you can feel good vibes. So if you've got a healthy environment, it's alive, it's vibrant. People are excited to be there. Do they have bad days? Of course. But they have great days too, and the great days outnumber the bad days. And then they leave and take that home to their significant other and into the community. They're better contributors. They're not going home fatigued. They're going home actually alive. And then they come back to the workplace ready again for it. So that's what a healthy culture is. It's a vibrant, alive, true thing that so many leaders don't really think they need to think about, or they have something on the wall that talks about culture, or they have their vision and mission statements all over the place, but you don't really feel it, and people really don't understand what that means to them personally. And then also, if you have a vibrant culture, you have people that stay. You don't churn through people. It's not I don't believe in that. Is there people that need to leave it for certain reasons? Sure. But very few leave if you've got a healthy culture. They want to stay. They want to be a part of that. They feel alive. They feel like they're contributing. They feel like they're benefiting. And then, by the way, oh, they've got some work to do. That's like the byproduct, the work.
Right. I think the reality here too is that a truly productive and active culture within an organization is extremely important to up and coming generations of workers. There's been a lot of buzz talk around millennials, over the last several years, and Gen Zs. And, I think that these are individuals who have been raised by, our generations, to be more mindful about the way that they choose professions, the way that they interact with those professions, and to be more impactful. And these are people who are looking for organizations where they feel that they can have an impactful role, that they feel that they can have a fulfilling experience, a rewarding experience. The days of a job being, I'm just going to go to work and punch the time clock, and I'm just going to do my thing half begrudgingly, and at 5 o'clock I'm going to be gone, and it's miserable and I don't really love it. People don't want that experience anymore. And if that's the type of experience that that you're fostering within your organization, you're going to have, as you mentioned, massive amounts of churn. If you know how to produce a rewarding, productive environment where each individual member is contributing in a meaningful way, and they're helping produce and achieve the overall goals and initiatives of the organization, then yes, you create this wonderful, vibrant environment where everybody wants to be there, right? They want to be part of that, and they feel like they're on a team that has their back. They're part of something meaningful that is giving them a rewarding experience day in and day out. You also kind of mentioned this thing that happens very often, and the reality is that finding this balance is very challenging, and that is that for many organizations, and I think particularly the larger an organization gets, the harder it can be to have this vision of culture that permeates throughout all departments and all ranks. But for many organizations, this idea of they say we have a wonderful culture, amazing culture. For many, it's frankly lip service, and they don't truly practice the philosophies and principles that they supposedly espouse to bring about, creating this dynamic environment within their company that they want, and that produces the right results. So maybe you can talk a little bit more about that. What's your experience with lip service versus, practicing in reality?
Yeah, a couple things come to mind. You mentioned as an organization grows bigger, people often, don't have the same touch anymore, perhaps, as you did when you were smaller and had maybe a dozen people or 50 people, and then it grows to 200 people. And how do you keep that dynamics? Well, you started at the beginning, and then you notice that other people then support the culture and lead the culture. It does not have to be you anymore. You're now replaced by other people that you've trained, and they're taking on the role as the leader of the culture. They're watching carefully to make sure the culture is not disturbed and it's enhanced. And when you have your people doing that for you, that's when you truly have a strong culture, and that they feel like they're leaders of it, and that they need to espouse it and they need to behave it. They can't just say it. And back to another point you made, if you're not walking your talk as a leader, it's over.
Yeah.
People see that real quick, and they'll say, you know, that's funny what he says on what he just said, because he's not really that way. So you have to really be authentic, and it has to be really something that you are. And are you perfect at it? No, but people will let you slip up if it's a true slip up. But if it's really not you that's behaving that way as to what you just told people to do and preached, then you're in trouble. It will never work. But I believe that a company can continue to grow as big as it needs to, and the culture even become more rich and more diverse and more vibrant as it gets bigger.
Yeah.
One acid test I will just throw in here where we have a moment is when I'd see a significant other or a parent or a child of one of my employees, I'd kind of come up and say hi and how you doing, and oh, by the way, does your mom like working here? What does she say when she comes home? And 9 out of 10 times they would say, oh, she loves it. She just can't say enough about it. But once in a while there'd be, oh, she's kind of grumpy when she comes home. And I would love that, because then that would help me go understand why that person is not being fulfilled. A lot of times it was simple. Maybe the person that was next to him had bad BO. Or maybe they just had, they're not being stretched and they need to have another opportunity. Or maybe it's something personal. Maybe they're losing a parent. There's just so many ways that you can reach out and touch an individual as a leader that then again reflects back into the culture. Because guess what happens? That person then goes around and tells people what you just did. And it just vibrates through the system and cascades through the organization, and it just supports again the culture and what you believe in as an organization. Because hey, Dave just talked to my child, and actually he remembered my daughter's name.
Yeah, fantastic. That's fantastic. A couple of, I think, really important points there, Dave, is as a leader being authentic. And I personally think that as human beings, we kind of have this built-in authenticity radar, whether it's at a conscious level or just a subconscious level. I think we all, if whether we analyze it or not, we sense that vibe, right? We sense that energy of this person is genuine, they're authentic, their word is their deed, right? And if you're a leader who is consistently incongruent, you're consistently telling one message, but your actions are telling a different message, then you're never going to be able to establish, a culture that is going to work within your organization. As you said, we're human. We don't have to be perfect, right? You don't always have to, do things exactly right, and people will forgive some slip-ups. But if you're generally congruent with with the philosophies that you teach, then you have a far better chance of creating a productive culture within your organization. And secondly, actually, I think, maybe a good segue here is for us to talk a little bit about, and this is something we experienced internally with our organization as Nexus IT as COVID hit in March. We are a technology company. We are a company who for 20 plus years has helped other organizations implement telecommuting models or work from home models, and it was part of our business. Now we've had for at least 10 or 12 or 15 years, we've had portions of our team that work in an office and portions of our team that telecommute at least part-time. And frankly, we kind of thought, this is all going to be super simple and easy. We have the culture in place already, to create a really healthy team dynamic, to make sure that there's lots of cohesion and cooperation, and we have this collaborative space that we're all contributing to, and we're keeping this very productive, healthy dynamic going on. And the reality is, COVID hit, and we all went home, right? We all started working from home, and we started to see within a couple of months some breakdowns. We started to see some gaps. We started to see some concerns with the team, and even though we thought we were set up well, we found out that we weren't. And so I want to talk a little bit about this. I know that this isn't just something that Nexus IT has struggled with. In fact, as I speak to most business leaders, most of my friends and colleagues that have done any extent of significant work from home, over the past, 6 or so months, or even prior to that, having a remote workforce can make creating a productive culture more difficult. So maybe talk a little bit about that. Have you had some experience with that? What are some of your tips and things for organizations that are currently either temporarily or permanently planning on continuing work from home models?
Yeah, great question, because the companies I'm advising right now are in the same position you are. And it is a true test as to the culture that they thought they had. Either it was like, right on, we're doing pretty good considering all things, or it's like, we're struggling. Our people are unhappy. We're losing them. The work output is not the same. We don't know how to stay connected with our people. So, to start an organization right now and to try to start a culture right now, I think would be pretty difficult if you don't have one. But back to your point, how do you stay engaged with your people? Well, you have to get creative during this time. So is an extra phone call necessary? Not just a Zoom, but just checking in with the people, listening to them. If you can't get face to face with them, we have some technology that will help that. Sometimes a phone call's all that's needed. So there are ways to continue to, I grew up on a farm ranch, and you touch the flywheel, and it's the old, for those my age would understand this, but for the younger generation, when you're trying to take some grain or put some grain into a silo, you may be pulling it off a big flywheel off a tractor. These belts are like 3 to 4 inches wide, and they may be going 20, 30 feet. And there's the tendency for the weight of the belt to fall down in, and it slips on the flywheel. So there's an old adage that said, all you need to do is keep touching the flywheel. Just keep your finger on the flywheel. So most leaders don't know how to do that with their organization, is to know how to tap the flywheel, to then tighten the belt, and then all of a sudden everything's pulling well again. So you need to figure out what that means to you as a leader. Is that a call? Do I need to drive out to Denver to meet with my group and to be with them? Do I need to take some people aside and have a one-on-one conversation? And again, with the idea in mind, Earl, I want this person to be happy. Everyone's different. So what can I do as a leader? And what can I do with my friend Earl to help him be happier and to be more fulfilled in whatever he's doing? And maybe he's just stuck somewhere. Maybe I can help tap the flywheel and get things moving again. And it may be just a little nudge that's needed. So again, to your question, that's a big one to ask, but each organization is unique. They're set up uniquely, and they either have a strong culture or they don't. This is a real test of who they are and who they aren't. I hope the ones that come out of this can learn from experience and say, I could do a few things differently once I get my people back, or maybe they'll never come back. What do I do now? Maybe we will stay remote for the rest of our lives. I just heard, was it Microsoft is allowing their people to continue to stay home permanently now. So right. What do you do if your culture is not strong? Well, it's a new day. It's a new day to try some new things. And it's almost gives the leader an opportunity to try new things that you may not have done before, that you may have thought, oh, it's kind of hard to do something like that. It's new. We're in a new time, man. You make the rules, and let's create some new rules if we need them.
Totally. Yeah, certainly moments of crisis or moments of difficulty and challenge within the world, within a business, can always be viewed as moments of opportunity to get creative, to think outside the box, to innovate. And right now, those are definitely things that are needed, particularly with remote workforce type of scenarios. And here's something that maybe a tip that's worked within my organization. I don't know if it would work within other organizations, but we want high producing, winning members on our team. We compare our team to the Super Bowl champs of IT services in the northern Utah region. And Michael Jordan, for example, or LeBron James, I guess now I went from football to NBA, but whatever. Anyway, those are a couple of guys who wouldn't have just gone to any old market to play, right? They wanted to be parts of a winning team. They wanted to, get some decoration from that. They wanted, to win some rings and things. And the reality is that high producers and winners want to be part of a culture that is holding all of the members of that team accountable. And so if you create within an organization, and this has to be for Nexus IT, it was a process of kind of doing this, kind of one KPI or one measurement at a time, right? Begin to evaluate and understand what measurements are important to us that produce the outcomes that our clients need and that the organization needs, right? And that produce the right experience for our team members. And so you figure out that measurement, you implement a way to measure that and a way to report it, a way to show it to the team. And then, particularly with remote workforces, now you've stepped outside of a traditional office environment. Maybe they're running back and forth. They got to take the kids to school or daycare, and maybe they got to give the kids some lunch and help them get going on their homework. All throughout this workday that they're having, and they have interrupted moments. Maybe their schedule is no longer 8 to 5, but it's 8-ish hours throughout. Sometime throughout the day, right? Yeah. And so you still have to create a structure and mechanism by which your team can, they know what the expectations are, and they can produce the results that are going to give the client the right experience, give the team the right experience, and produce the right outcomes for your organization. And that's, incidentally, you mentioned this, but maybe to reiterate it, and I'd like to get some of your thoughts on the topic as well. And that is, from my experience, and look, my first jobs that I had, and honestly, in our first 8 or 10 years of Nexus IT, I really didn't understand what a productive culture was and how to produce that. And it's been this evolution, and we're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. We've come a long way over the last 12 to 15 years in creating a culture that we're proud of. But I've seen organizations devoid of culture, and I've seen organizations with really healthy, vibrant cultures. Tell us a little bit about which you've experienced produce better.
Let me back up just a little bit. We're in a new era of time and space and output. Back to your comment of, the person working from home, they have kids coming and going, perhaps they've got people moving around in that atmosphere. It's hard to focus. Maybe it's easier for them to get distracted. So it comes again back to, how do you bring somebody on? How do you onboard somebody in your organization? My whole philosophy has been, well, you are your own organization. You just happen to have this role here. It's me, Inc. Me, meaning I'm my own organization. So I need to think that way. I can't be pampered and told what to do. That's not who I'm looking for. I'm looking for people who want to figure out how to be leaders, even if it's for themselves. So the whole paradigm of Me Inc. helps these individuals now that have a new work environment. It's not so much 8 hours, it's not so much 10, it's not so much 4 hours. It's the output. What do I do to increase my output? What am I doing each day to try a little bit harder to do a little bit better? And if you have that kind of paradigm, you move through things. You don't see a lot of the distractions other people do. You don't come in and go like, oh, this isn't that hard. And all you've been hearing is, well, this is so hard. No, you're thinking of Me Inc. How can I contribute to Nexus IT in the role that I've been given? I've got a stewardship here. So Earl's empowered me to be all I can be in this role. So I'm going to do that. So if they know that that's the green light, not everyone will do it, Earl, but it's amazing how many people want to do it and have never had the opportunity in a work environment to actually do that.
Yeah. So I want to ask you another question about that. But as I do that, I do want to ask the audience here to go ahead and start in the chat, whatever platform you're on. If you're on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, go ahead and put some questions in the chat there. We're going to shortly here open up to an open forum. You can ask whatever questions you want about culture or anything that is leadership or entrepreneurship related. Dave and I would be happy to answer to the best of our ability. But you mentioned something really important, and that's actually one of our core values here at Nexus IT is empowered shared leadership. And I know that this is an ideal that has been important to you throughout your career, your leadership journey, the organizations that you've led. Tell us a little bit, more about how that has influenced the success of your organizations. That's sort of an ideal.
I go back to my days at Covey Leadership. And in '89, Stephen R. Covey wrote this amazing book that took the nation by storm called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That was in 1989. Everyone loved the idea and the concept. They loved the 7 habits. But to do it and to deploy it was a difficult issue. So what I learned from that, Earl, and coming back to your question, is in the shared leadership role, well, who cares who's in front? Maybe I'm the dog, six back on the dog sled. I've got to pull something. I've got some weight to pull. And I want to make sure I'm helping the dog right next to me and the dog in front of me offload some of their weight. I want to be the last dog on the sled that's dragging. So that's been my whole mindset about people and working with teams. You work in a team, you're the leader sometimes, you're a good follower many times, but you're a team and you pull together. You don't have just that person pulling and you just sit here and go, oh, well, I'm done for the day. Well, you're done for the day. You get up and go find out what else you can do. And that's how you work as a team. And when you have a team that's like that and they're helping each other that way, they're unstoppable in terms of their output and what their creativity provides. And all of a sudden they'll come up with new ways to do things. They'll be more efficient. They'll get way more done and they'll be happier. Again, Earl, the whole journey is to find happiness for us, right? And it can happen in the workplace. So many people think that workplace is this and my home life's that, and I live in these silos. No, you can be happy in the workplace, and can you actually be happier and then go home a better person from a work environment that's healthy? Absolutely. So our job as leaders is to provide those opportunities for people to become better human beings. Me Inc. I'm a team member. I know how to lead when I need to lead. I can be an incredible follower too. So to have all of those characteristics formed within a team that then goes into the culture in multiple teams is how you do it. So I want one last thing here. I'll be quick. Organizations that right now are large and they say, oh, well, we can't change what we're doing. That's the first thing I get from a leader is, well, we've been doing it this way for 11 years and it's going to be really hard to change. No, you take it one bite at a time. And can you start to shift and change? I can't remember the story. If you shift an airplane from Heathrow or from KFJ to London, or I mean from KFJ to Heathrow, if you change it like 1 degree, you're off like 400 miles or something like that. I can't remember the stats.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But that's the same thing applied in a positive way. Just make a slight shift and you start to turn the big Titanic slightly in a different way, and you start to move in a different direction, which you never thought was possible because it was too big to comprehend. So you just do it a little bit at a time. And you start with your leaders, you start from the top down, and then let it cascade across the bottom.
Yeah, and I think that's really great wisdom and advice there, and I can definitely share that sentiment, and that is good leaders effect change, but you cannot, as humans, unfortunately, part of our human nature is to kind of resist change, and you have to use good judgment in how you affect and implement that change. And I would generally recommend you can't do a whole bunch all at once. You've got to kind of take it slow. At Nexus IT, when we started to identify some significant concerns in our culture, in the output that we were creating, in the experience that we were creating for clients, we started to identify what we thought would be the most impactful, and then kind of a bite at a time per quarter, right? We're going to implement this new initiative or this new measurement this quarter, and we're going to work at it together for a quarter as a team, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to evangelize it, and we're going to teach it and train it, and we're going to measure it, and then we're going to together see what we produce differently in the quarter. And the next quarter, we're going to add something onto that, right? And so you do this process of building blocks. So maybe to reiterate just a couple of really important points, and we've got some good questions flowing in here. You mentioned this concept, and you didn't necessarily mention the term, but you mentioned this concept of intrapreneurship. Those are the type of people that we look for to join our organization, people who want to be innovative, who want to be impactful, who want to do something important day in and day out. And they don't, I loved your analogy of the dog sled. They don't necessarily care about the title, right? I don't care about the title. Right. I use a title because other people care about it. The title doesn't matter to me. It doesn't define who I am. It doesn't give me more clout, in my opinion. It's just, an organization needs a public face, and that's, I espouse that title, right? But for me, within an organization, if everybody understands that I am an important cog in this system, right? Mm-hmm. And, I've got to fire just like everybody else, and I've got to do things, in the right sequence and the right timing, and or I've got to pull that sled, just as much as every other dog on that sled is pulling it. And when you create this type of culture, right, in the end, and I think, what we've said here, Dave, is that organizations who kind of nail a really productive culture that is meaningful to them, and it should ingrain who they are as individuals, like the leaders, who they are at the core of their being should be part of that culture. And once you kind of nail that, the likelihood that you are able to create a far more successful experience, a far more successful company and experience for your clients and for your team members, I think is greatly increased. Let's go to, some of our questions here. Greg Johnson.
Let me just dovetail off that one last thing. One thing I wanted to add is the culture is a long game.
Yeah.
Can you measure it quarterly or monthly or annually? Sure. But, if you wanted to look at the KPIs, I'm working on the culture, the KPIs better change. If you look at it from that perspective, you're not in the long game.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a change agent for an individual to help them be better people, you're in it forever. You're never out of it.
Yep.
And I see my people, I know they'll come and go, but I see them forever. I want to be with them forever. So this is a long game for me.
Yeah.
And yes, little steps at a time are necessary. So.
Yeah. No, that's really, really great advice. And I think for me, the concept is servant leadership. It's understanding that you're in a role, you're there to serve those around you and to help them improve upon who they are as individuals, as professionals. And in the end, that all, contributes more towards the end game of the business. And yes, it's a journey. Like, you're not going to nail culture overnight. You're not going to nail the experience for everybody overnight. You're not going to nail your KPIs overnight. It's a methodical journey, step by step. So Greg Johnson, one of our partners for Nexus IT, he runs an organization called WebCheck Security that does some penetration testing and some accredited audits and things for some of our clients, and of course his clients. He says, Dave, I believe so this is an interesting question. I think all of us that know you, personally know that fitness is important to you.
Right.
You're a gentleman of a few more years than myself, and you're in tip-top physical. Yeah, it's only a few. You're in tip-top physical condition. I mean, you look fantastic. I know you feel fantastic. Greg says, Dave, I believe your fitness level has influenced your success. As you've gotten older, do you tend to do more volume than heavy in the weight room? And what diet do you follow? Vegan, vegetarian, keto, paleo? Maybe you can talk about how fitness, how personal well-being, personal care has influenced your journey, and share some of your secrets.
Oh, you're talking my language now. It's a non-negotiable for me. I wrote a book called 7 Non-Negotiables. For me, a non-negotiable is my daily hour in the gym. So to answer his question, I lift less as I've aged, but I'm smarter on how I lift. I've figured out the recipe for my body on how to keep my body strong, lean, and I've got discipline around the nutrition. So we could spend a whole nother hour talking about the value proposition, but it's probably 25% gym time and 75% nutrition. And as you age, Earl, you'll see that gap. Maybe it's 50-50 for you. But as you age, and for me, gym is more, if I don't go to the gym that day, it's not going to affect my body much, but my mindset, I need that. That's my therapy. My mental therapy is in the gym.
Yeah. Well, and I think for me, and look, I'm not the pillar of fitness that Dave Williams is, but most definitely when I am more engaged in making sure that I'm getting that personal care in, that my body is receiving an injection of endorphins and adrenaline, on a daily basis, your mind is so much sharper. Like, you rest better. You're, throughout the day, you have more energy, physically and mentally. And, before I became more committed to it, I would notice, like, it was almost daily, 2 or 3 p.m., like mentally and physically, I just kind of start this decline. And by the time I got home, at 6 o'clock or something, I'd be wiped. And until I got a really good regimen of, daily physical activity, now, sometimes it's 9:30 or 10 and I'm like, yeah, let's go,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's massively important for sure. Let's see. I'm not sure if this is a question, but our buddy Mark Webb also says, love the core values. People want to feel that they belong and they make a difference. Give us some key examples. So there is a question here. Give us some key examples of specific things you have implemented to build a successful culture and team within your organizations.
I think we've said a few specific things. There's certainly many more things we could talk about. Let me try to answer Mark's question in another way. I think it's important. It's innately in us to want to improve. I think that's just a God-given gift that we have innately, that most of us do, not everybody, but most people want to improve in some way. I believe it's a great leadership quality characteristic to be able to search and find what that is for the individual. They may not know what it is. And it may be outside the workplace. Maybe they need to figure out how to go serve somewhere and how to be a contributor in society. Maybe they don't know how to do that. Maybe they feel shy. Maybe they don't have high self-worth. And where does that stem from? Do they need to have some unique challenges that I could provide for them? So there's so many things. Again, I'm in the business of people. It's not what we do, it's what I can do for them to help them be happier and more fulfilled in life. And if I do that, the work will come.
Yeah.
Done.
Wise words. That's why, I mean, really getting to know your team and understanding them. We several years ago implemented this model of quick bi-monthly check-ins with each individual team member. And while I can't realize, at one time I realized those, personally every couple of months with every team member, we've grown to a scale where I can't do that anymore, but their immediate team leaders do that, right? And their immediate team leaders bring feedback, back to the team. And those team leaders are asking things like, where do you want your career to be in 5 years, and how do we enable that, and how do we help, and what would you like to improve upon, right? What are some knowledge and skill set areas where you feel like you have a gap that are holding you back, and how can we as an organization support you to fill those gaps, right? And so super important things there. Maybe to answer a couple of other specifics for Mark. In Nexus IT, we kind of we identified that really we service a triad of entities, and those are our clientele first and foremost, our team, and the organization as a whole. And as a team, we focus on, and again, we teach this philosophy of everything that we do is meant to produce the right outcome for those three entities. Everything that we do is meant to produce a positive experience, and meant to create something that creates a positive impact for those three entities. And so we ask our team members to look at their situations, their challenges, the problems they solve day in and day out from that perspective. Is what I'm doing, is it serving correctly those three different entities? Am I creating the right experience for my team members around me, right? Am I creating the right experience for our clientele? And therefore, generally, when you kind of have those two down, then you're creating the right experience for the organization, and the momentum and traction just kind of follows with it. So Rena Jordan, who is perhaps one of the foremost authority I know on culture, and I am honored that Rena has joined us here today. Rena runs a global organization named Walking the Talk that actually consults with massive enterprises on how to create and implement culture within them. Rena says, you've done a great job over the past 8+ years of growing both the company and those around you. It's been great to listen to this. So just wanted to give Rena a shout out, say thank you very much for joining us. We're honored to have your presence. My friend Ollie Smith says this is some great stuff. Mark Webb says good info. Let's see here. Steve Auerbach, who runs Salt Lake Academy of Music, SLAM, a very important nonprofit here in our community. Of course, music is important to me. You can see above me, right? Steve says, great stuff, gents. Can you comment on Simon Sinek's book or talks such as Leaders let's see, leaders earn last. Is that,
Earn last.
yeah, and the infinite game. Leaders eat last. My bad. That's the one. Leaders eat last. Are you? I've read Leaders Eat Last. Eat Last. I've not read Infinite Game, but honestly, it's been several years. Are you familiar enough to comment on that, Dave?
I'm not on either one of them. I've read bits and pieces of them, but they all start to blend together to me. I was just going to comment back to what maybe one of Mark's questions. I think the greatest leaders are the best listeners. And don't be fearful of walking around your halls. It's kind of like being a parent, walking in and listening to your kids as they're talking, and just listen. Sit down on their bed and just listen. Go into where a meeting's happening and just kind of walk in and sit down and say, do you mind if I join you? And just listen. And then read the body language, read where the eyes are. What are people doing? What are their comments? Is their head in the game? And you can pick up a lot of things by being a great listener and a great watcher of your people. And if you just did that and maybe spoke 5% of the time and listened 95% of the time, that's probably a good recipe.
Fantastic advice, and very unconventional, right? I mean,
yeah.
Typically leaders tend to have, if you look at all of those, personality type of models, right? Typically most leaders are somewhere in a type A quadrant. We tend to be very outspoken, outgoing, dominate, conversations and meetings, and so I think it's unconventional for a lot of leaders to say, I'm just going to go in and listen, right? I'm not going to go have this meeting, whether it's a one-on-one or whether it's with a leadership team or whether it's with a board or whatever that meeting might be. I'm not going to go and just tell everybody my opinion on what they need to do and, give everybody a list of what's going to, what needs to happen. Instead, I'm going to go in and listen to what the team has to say or this individual has to say. And I'm going to, very important, observe their demeanor, their body language, their eyes, and really understand how they're feeling, what their sentiment is all about. So speaking of sentiment, actually another guy that I'm really glad to have on this live broadcast here with us is Dr. Jeb Hurley, another foremost authority on creating the right cultures within organizations. And actually, Dr. Jeb, understands from a psychological standpoint the benefits and how to break down, values and norms within an organization, and then implement those to make sure you're creating the right culture within the organization. Dr. Jeb asks, Dave, can you dig a little deeper into the people challenges, especially around trust, you've encountered in fostering lasting behavioral changes on teams, and the practical steps, processes you've taken or put in place to overcome them? Thanks, Jeb. You know Dr. Jeb and Elena from Xmetrics, Trust Metrics. Yeah.
Trust, right? The big, the holy grail, actually. So to be trustworthy is one thing. To exhibit trust, perhaps is another. They're closely related. But in my mind, to be trustworthy is everything to your people. So again, to be trustworthy, what does that mean to me? Keeping my word, walking my talk. I circle back around when I say I'm going to do that. When I say I'm going to do this, then I do that. I may ask for permission to change. And to build that and to exhibit trustworthiness, then you get a lot of trust that comes to you. But you have to be trustworthy or people won't give you trust.
Yeah, very, very, very true. And really, from my conversations with Dr. Jeb, I think if I were to summarize some of his philosophies, as best as I can, so I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to do a good job, but we'll try. I think that, generally speaking, he says from a psychological perspective, breakdowns on teams happen because of a lack of trust, right? There's some sort of gap of trust, whether that's because trust was violated or it simply hasn't been correctly established yet.
Mm-hmm.
And most definitely, creating the right culture can help you fill those gaps. And I love what Dr. Jeb and Elena have done. Dr. Jeb having led many large organizations and taking that experience and his studies and creating actually a SaaS platform that helps you measure the gaps of trust within your organization. And then gives you coaching within the SaaS model to help you understand what's going on and how you can potentially implement change that can fix those things. But that's really, in the end, and I think it's a very good summary of what we've been talking about, and that is if you can figure out the way to build the type of culture that makes your team members feel like they can trust you, they can trust their teammates, they can be trusted, then the sky's the limit on what you can create as a team, right? And the momentum that you can gain.
Yes.
Trust is absolutely paramount, and certainly should be, if not the most, one of the most important considerations as you begin to mindfully decide how you're going to implement some sort of culture that is going to be impactful to your organization. So we're running up on our time here, just a couple of minutes left here. Want to absolutely thank everybody for tuning in today. It's been, we've had a fantastic conversation here. We really appreciate all of your attendance. We hope that you've had massive amounts of value and ideas come from this conversation today. I want to thank Dave. Dave, you're my hero, and I really appreciate you spending your time with us today and imparting, with your wisdom. Feel free to follow Dave and I on LinkedIn. We both try to share some content and add and contribute to our local and community abroad. So there's definitely content that we're continually publishing that you may find valuable to you. Dave, do you have any final thoughts that you want to share before we wrap up here?
Everybody has the potential to be a leader and to be able to contribute to somebody else. And so I guess my parting few words of a little bit of wisdom, or my 1.5 cents worth, would be to go about your day and find a way to help somebody improve. And if that's just, sometimes it's just by being happy to them. Maybe they just need a pat on the back. Maybe they need to just have somebody sit down and say, share with me what's exciting in your life right now. And to just be a good listener. And people love that. And that's how you become more impactful and your circle of influence grows. And you find yourself with opportunities that just come organically. If you're that type of person, you pull good things into your life by being that person that's looking outward instead of inward.
Very, very important. Very important. And it's not easy to practice as a leader. I mean, leaders, we generally get busy. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, your massive task lists and your meetings and your phone calls and everything that you've got going on. And honestly, I'm not always the best at that, but taking the time aside to sit down with somebody every day and figure out, can I just be a friend to this person right now? Can I do something that helps them improve today? Fantastic advice, Dave. Just thank you so much. Thank you for spending the afternoon with me, and thank you to everybody who tuned in. We wish you all a wonderful afternoon, and we're signing off.
Thank you.